Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be doing the kind of 3-month review of like what's going on, just discussing thoughts and characters and art going on the page or on the video for like the last 3 months of what I've been working on. My art has been slower these last couple of months, and especially interrupted with life events and depression. And if you noticed me looking a little bit more wet-eyed the last couple of streams or videos, this is just stuff has been going on. But before we get into the updates of just life and art, a couple of things. Number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lamwai, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and on the first Monday video of the month, we bask in your creative genius. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit it, the first chapter, to the Fresh Meat feature, that chapter will be read here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work. Sometimes I pick them up. I'm hoping other people pick up books that they might seem interested in. And this way, stuff gets out there that has nothing to do with my personal taste, and I can be a little more consistent. Because let me tell you, when the stress be building, it is much harder to stay on top of things. My reading has also slowed down. Generally, my functioning in general has suffered, especially this month, or I should say in September, because by the time you see this video, it'll be October. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books, including the local library upon request. My newest novel, Bodymore Zero, is coming out at the end of October, so I hope that you will check it out. Features the two brothers who are not on the screen right now, Casey and Ralph, and I love them. I hope that you will enjoy their journey, but it is definitely not a book for everybody. With that said, let's get into the video. So this goes all the way back into, what is it, July? August and September. Those are the 3 months. And in July, I drew Billy a couple of times, that's for sure. I think in early July, I was drawing Michi quite a bit. Just, to draw her. And early July also had kind of where my mindset changed of not sharing my artwork as much as I had been. Just not to say it is any good, but I was sharing like my journey as I learned, just my characters as I was drawing them so that people could see the characters, maybe like the characters, what have you. But some stuff went down in the early part of July, and it usually becomes a thing after a thing after a thing where I'm just like, okay, what is the point of it anymore? I'm sorry if I'm a little low energy today as well. I did not sleep very well last night. My heart has been pounding all day. And there's been some drama in life that is not easy for me to deal with. So this was one of the pictures actually involved in why I felt like I needed to stop sharing art, because this was a redraw from something that I did last year, and I had actually been pretty, not, I don't want to say surprised, but I did a comparison between this and the one I did last year and saying I wasn't sure how to feel about it because it kind of changed the entire mood of the initial image, and I wasn't sure how to feel about, whatever style is going on in this, which turned into just receiving what felt like insults and discouragement. And it just stopped feeling like, even in spaces that I created, it was okay for me to share without just being insulted. Like, I make it a very straightforward thing that I am learning. I am in no way a professional. I am not trying to be professional. I'm just trying to be able to draw my characters in a pleasing enough manner that I can express who they are and that I can learn how to draw. And I am definitely just in the learning phase. And then there's just been a crack of what feels like a lack of grace, a lack of, I know it's the internet. Who goes to the internet asking for grace or niceness? Yeah, that's definitely something that has come up in the morphing of my personality. This was my response to those feelings, by the way. But there's definitely been a morph or a switch in my personality because I've been hurt a couple of times, especially in the last couple of, like, I would say I've had two very people that I thought were very good friends, at least in the last 2 years. And more than that if I go further back than that. That it just feels like ended. And it's started to make me more cynical. And I don't want to be that person, but it's hard. Man, I can already feel the tears coming on. I'm trying not to get there. I know that I will if I express what's been bothering me. Oh no, here it comes. Okay. We're going to try to get back onto this for now. Because, like, by the time that this video comes out, I will have answers on something that... No, by the time this video comes out, it'll be tomorrow after this video comes out that I will possibly have some kind of answer on some of the things that have been making me upset, especially for the last, like, week and a half and putting me into panic. But so right now I'm just kind of on edge and not sleeping. And there's that. Now that's completely separate-ish, mostly, from my lack of focus and writing. Because I feel like, I don't know about anybody else, let me know if this has been kind of your year, where it's just feeling like a dark cloud following you everywhere you go and everything that you do. And maybe it's 2024, maybe that is just an excuse. Maybe it's just I am running out of the steam that I need to create. But I've had a hard time picking a project to work on and to stick with it. And it's not like I'm not excited for the stuff that I want to work on. This is still one of my favorite drawings that I have done of Malik so far. He is so cute. And this image turned out so much better than I could have guessed it would. But tell me if you guys have felt this at all, where this year is just like, it's harder to keep focused, it's harder to stay motivated, it's harder to feel like what you're doing matters. And I've been going back and forth on different projects for the last few months. So if you watch like the last video of this, I think I said I was going to work on Cain and Abel. And then after that, I tried to work on Cain and Abel. And I do remember mentioning that it was going to have some second person in it. But I put that aside because I didn't think that I was in the right mind space to be able to work on it, because it's so depressing. And I know I got so much work to do on it. I keep thinking about what state it's in right now. And then I'm always surprised at what state it is in when I go back to it. But I don't think I'm in the mental place to work on it. So instead, I talked to Monty. And Monty and I have agreed to work on... And that was only earlier in September that I talked to Monty about this after struggling for 2 months with Cain and Abel. But I talked to Monty about working on Westies instead, and then we could work on Westies together while she works on Numinous Star, because then it'll take some of the heat off of her from having to just do her thing alone and feel alone. And if she's maybe struggling, or if I'm maybe struggling, then we can both kind of power each other through it. In doing this first draft of the Westies, plus the Westies is a 4-book series, so it's going to be a couple of years for development, and I don't know if I want to wait a million years to get those characters out there, because I love those characters. And you'll see as they show up more and more in the drawings going forward in this this video. This character was actually one that I tried to draw for Sam. It is his VTuber character. If you follow him over on Twitch, Spooky Samuel, he is the person that designed all of my book covers. He is one of my best friends. I've known him since the late aughts. And he is like a brother to me. Like, he's just very, very special to me. And so one night I was watching him stream, and I just tried redrawing his character, since it had been a while since I tried drawing his character, and mixed results, obviously, but it's something at least. Anyway, so we will be working on Westies, and since having said that, it's about 42,000 words into that project, and I did some reorganizing on it. This is the first picture that has the entire crew from the Aliens group that Monty and I have made, that has Khan and Malik and Letha and Jay Taigo and Sogo. I just wanted to do a quick image. Like, this wasn't exactly the style I was going for them, but I did want to do an image to put them all together to see what they would look like. And it was a collaborative piece since I didn't know what all of Monty's characters looked like. So I asked her to draw them so that I could add them to this. And this is what we got. Anyway, the Westies first book is up to about 42,000 words. The first act is almost done. The 42,000 is not only the first act, because there are some areas where I've been bouncing around, and there are some areas where I've been placing some things like conversations as I could see them going. And so we got some things spread out. I think I'm trying to think of one of the chapters that I've already done. I think it's the runaway chapter. I haven't quite ended the runaway chapter. That's for sure. Is then that's at the end of Act 2. So Act 1, and I did have to restructure everything. So in the time that Monty and I had conceived of the Westies to now, it had a completely kind of different setup. A lot of similarities, but the growth that I discovered has been more organic. And so then I had to go in and sort of re-outline it for possibilities. We also have discovered the Dutch Vanderland cameo character that we are going to put in there because in case you didn't know, Westies was inspired by playing Red Dead Redemption 2. And so some of the homages that we are going to do in the Westies is one, the outlaws' surname that they use when they're hiding that they're Cassidy's is Morgan. Then Marcella's baby is going to be named Arthur. And then there is going to be like a random scene. And Monty and I were thinking that maybe there would be one scene per book that would have this character. And it would be a Dutch Vanderland cameo type of thing. But the character's name is actually going to be Dane Van Dan. There we go. Dane Van Dan. And he always scheming and getting them in trouble with some of his schemes because they can be just a little bit on the reckless side. So there's that. Oh my gosh. Some of these images, I can start working on them, and they are such disasters. I don't even know what to do with myself. They are such disasters that I don't know how to fix. And you'll probably have noticed by now that many more of these are unfinished or more sketchy than others. And there will be more further down that are also not complete because I'm just like, I think I'm done with this. I had a couple of these Billy pictures sitting on my to draw list for a while that were all half finished, partially like even just flats, and I was like, I think it's too late. I think the boat has crossed for this. I don't really want to finish this, so I'm just gonna stick it into the completed folder as is and not do whatever I would consider to push it to the finished max. Oh, maybe this one got closer to the finished max than I thought. This one did not. And this is just Ike taking Billy away as you do because, you know, you're the big brother, got to take care of your little sister, make sure she don't get into any trouble. And by trouble, we mean Yankees. And that's also one of the things that I really like about the Westies, and I think that the Westies is going to be a lot of fun. There is drama. There is definitely drama. The main villain of the first book is Pinkertons and like Marcella's dad. And the kind of the institution and the way that it sort of abused her, but also you got tricklings of exactly what it is that is chasing all of the Cassidys around to the point that they can't really slow down, because you see it in multiple places that they slow down or they try to do something and they get caught up with. But what you find with them is this respect between them and this love between them as siblings. And there might be challenges between them, like between Ike and Tommy, because they're both men. They're both going to be like, don't tell me what to do. But when When something gets really dangerous, they know that they can trust each other, they know that they can rely on each other, and they know in general, all of them know that they are there for each other. So, what Westies really has for it is this found family situation that grows more powerful as it goes forward, because it's not only the outlaws that were without family outside of themselves, but also the stragglers that they pick up were also looking for families, whether they knew it or not. You know, Daisy traveled to another state in search of a family. Ambrose travels out west to escape his family and look for a new purpose somewhere else. And Marcella didn't even know that she didn't have the family, because she didn't recognize what it was that her father was doing to her, had been doing to her. And this is a picture of Marcella with her love of peaches, because she loves peaches a lot. Okay. She is obsessed, especially when she gets pregnant. She just wants to eat peaches. But she comes from such a strict household that she was not allowed to just eat whenever she wanted. The food was very controlled. Her schedule was actually very controlled. She was led around by Mr. Brown, who was basically her guard of sorts, to make sure that she didn't go anywhere she wasn't supposed to go. If she wanted to go into town, if she wanted to visit with friends, he would be the one to take her, and she would really never be allowed to go and do anything on her own. And so when when she's pregnant and she's not in her house anymore, and she's, well, at home anymore, and she's instead with her new family, she she feels really guilty about eating the peaches, because she knows she's not supposed to. But she can't help it. She has the chance and she takes it, and then she eats the peaches. And it just makes her feel so guilty. And then they all tell her that she is allowed to eat the peaches. It's fine. She doesn't need to feel bad. And she's a cutie. Okay. I hope that other people like Marcella. Like, I would say, I hope that you all like any of the characters as much as I love them. They are all fantastic, in my opinion, and they are all very different. You've got Ambrose and Ike and Tommy as the main male leads, and Marcella and Daisy and Billy as the main female leads. And they are all so different from one another, but they mesh together and they fill in for each other. And they provide something that was missing for each of them, just by virtue of being the way that they are and being available. So hopefully the next time you get a video like this in January is going to be when it is. I'll be able to say that Monty and I have at least a first draft of this book together, because hopefully I will be able to find the focus that is necessary to get something done for once. I'm also still going to be working on my secret side project called Predisposed to Bliss, and that is focused on a main character named Isabella Bliss, but that is probably all I'm going to tell you about that project for now, mostly because I like the name Isabella Bliss. I'm trying to remember when I was drawing this. It was still July, because we're getting up to the images that I was working on while I was visiting Baltimore. And this was partially done before I went to Baltimore. I can tell you which one I was drawing on the plane. This one was also partially done, waiting in my move to finished pile while I was in Baltimore. I can show you which one I was working on. I worked on this one on the plane to there. I could show you which one I was working on the plane back from there. And that's another thing that I suppose I should throw into this, if it is a sort of a vlog, and that is that I went to Baltimore for a good friend's wedding. I don't want to out them of whose wedding it is. If they want to say it, then they can say it in the comments. But I was very honored to get to go on out there, and it was the first time that I had ever been to Baltimore. And so then after the wedding, I had gone to a couple of locations that were in the Bodymore books. They were Fort Armistead and Leakin Park and the Oreanda House. The Oreanda House is specifically mentioned I know that's the first book, I know the third book, and I know 0. And 0 something specifically happens at normal Orianda House. And you learn a little bit about the Crimea Estates as well, because that's mentioned when Ralph ends up on Lincoln Park trying to get the candle back. If you're wondering what I'm talking about there, it's the book that comes out in October. So hopefully that helps. This is, I think, another one that was waiting for me to finish it at the end of July, middle of July. It wasn't the end of July, it was the middle of July. And I'm still like trying to figure out specifically how I want to draw Billy. But you know, sometimes you just get into moods of wanting to draw the same character again and again and again. There was, I was Michi posting a couple of months ago. And so then we ended up on this. But I really like the character designs for Westies. I think that they're very unique. But, you know, that just sounds like me blowing myself. So I'm sorry. I do think that they are fun to draw and they're really neat. And they're really neat all packed together and getting to see their contrast to one another. And so I'm looking forward to getting to share them in their actual stories with people. So with the Westies, you'll have the 3 books. This is the image that I was drawing while I was on the plane coming back. Mind you, on the plane going to Baltimore, I had like an up and then a down, and then 30 minutes later an up again because I had a crossover to get to Baltimore. And that took out my right ear for probably a week and a half to 2 weeks. But this is what I was drawing on the plane back. I can remember that clearly. Anyway, so the books have been divided into 3 to have 3 separate focuses. And obviously the family in general will be involved in each of them because each of the books requires, like, none of the characters can get through what they need on their own. The families that have adopted them actually add to what is going on for them. And so the first book is going to be focused on Marcella and Tommy. And so that everybody else is kind of along for the ride with that, going around, avoiding being caught, and all of the things that come along with this relationship that is going to topple the Maximum Bailey empire that is in the works. The second book takes place in Louisiana on Daisy's ranch, where people are trying to take her property after her father has died. And she is the inheritor of said property, but she's not really a respected inheritor of the property, if you could imagine. And then the third book is about the group of them deciding to go back to, theoretically, we could change this as we get further in, but the third book is about them deciding to go back to their home of origin, to where their grandparents are, because all of this time they've been afraid to go back. They've been afraid to run into the shadow of their childhood, their dad's ex-partner, the man who killed their father and who almost killed them in childhood. Silas is the reason that Billy has a hard time speaking, because he crushed her vocal cords and damaged them. She was already shy, but now it's just harder for her to be loud because of the damage done to her larynx. Clock me on that. And he is also the one that got Ike's eye and had almost caused him to die from a fever. And so at some point, they're all talking about what they should do. And Ambrose brings up, well, I'm pretty sure we've discussed. We'll have to see when we get there, because you might have ideas, but at least if you work at like Monty and I do, you might have a vague idea. But when you get into the scene, you sort of see how it is. And this specific image, BT Dub, was inspired by the fact that Billy is very much a bush child. We've discovered how Ike and Billy both got their horses. Ike went out there and saw this pedigreed, beautiful horse and took it from the rider. It's okay. He made sure that the rider wouldn't miss it, if you know what I mean. And then brought her back. And ever since that day, he has always lied about how he got the horse. He says that he found her wild, and he knows that Tommy doesn't buy it. Doesn't matter. He will continuously say that he found her in the woods, that she is just a girl that has taste, that has needs, that she made sure to, get her horseshoes on, because she is a bit of a diva, okay? So she had to take care of herself. But then with Billy, Billy has a very light foot, and Billy is the one that does all of the cooking generally, and does the chore, does the clothing cleaning, does the dish cleaning, and she does a lot of the hunting because she has such a light touch, a light step. But not only does she have a light step, but she has this relationship in a way with nature where she can like walk with it and walk among it, and it's drawn to her. The birds like her, the wildlife likes her, and that'll come into play also on Daisy's farm when some of Daisy's animals take to liking to Billy, because that's how it is. And that comes into her finding her horse Custard, because she was out hunting and she came across Custard, and he was trapped under like rocks or bushes or something. He was trapped, and she helped him escape, and then he followed her back to the camp, and then just decided this is where he wanted to be, so he became her horse. And he is a thickly boy. This is one of my more recent pictures of Khan that I'm actually happy with. A lot of days it's just like, I don't know how to feel. It's been a while since I've actually drawn, though. Like I said, my drawing has slowed down, my writing has slowed down because it's just been really depressing. I don't know about you guys, but has September felt off to you guys too? Because it felt like every day of September, something bad was happening to somebody. I have not even been spared of this, which has left me in grief for the last couple of weeks. And maybe I don't need to be in grief. We're going to see come tomorrow. I don't want to get into it because I'm going to start crying again. Because it do got to do with Tate. Theoretically, he's still hanging around. I was going to have him up here, but he's doing his thing. He down there doing his thing. He keeps looking back at his bone. If I try to go for him, he will growl. So, he's just gonna hang out over there. But in September felt like it was something for you too, because I just don't know what it is. I'm wiped out by all of this month, and I'm hoping October I can get back on track to be doing what I want to be doing what I need to be doing. Now, this character on screen is a new character that I made to go with Sam's character, Max. His name is Alistair St. Clair. Yeah. Yeah. And he used to live in a foster home with a bunch of other kids. He liked to help take care of the other kids. And eventually he obviously had to go live somewhere else. They live in Louisiana. I think he's part of the French Quarter. Maybe. Also, there are vampires in that story because Jean-Baptiste is in that story. Jean-Baptiste is freaking obsessed with Max. And Max is a witch. So. But Alistair St. Clair over here, what we got going on for him is, one, he's a cinnamon roll. He is just the sweetest guy. And then two, he gets mixed up in something because of Max. And he unfortunately dies. And so then Max brings him back to life with some sort of spell and ties them together. And that's pretty much all that we have discovered about them. This is my most recent drawing of Sunny. As you can tell, I've still been messing around with her appearance to try to get a better feel of what she looks like. And Sunny is a character that I made to go in Monty's Numina Star series, though I don't think that she will really be showing up until the third book when they return from Baltimore. Because the first book is set in Miami, where they are going to get Markie, and then the second book is set in Baltimore, where they meet up with Casey and Ralph, and then the third book, they go back to their home place, and Sunny is going to be there. Her name is actually Seneca, but she goes by Sunny. If you can't tell, she is in fact an artist. And this was my attempt at drawing a non-cheapy version of Alistair. And I was trying to, I don't remember the expression I was trying to make him look, but I also got further into this and I was like, why does he look so stupid? He looks... I'm sorry. I don't think he's stupid, but he is like a puppy. He's a bit like, he's very loving. He has not a bad bone in his body. That's why I say he is a cinnamon roll. He is very sweet. But I felt like he ended up looking really dumb in this. And I don't know if that's just me being overcritical or what. But I hope you like him. We don't know what we're going to do yet, but Sam and I have been vague talking on and off about possible things to do. Oh yeah, I did switch his eyebrows. That did make a bit of a difference. What is this one? Oh no, it's Billy. Oh, we're getting into some of my portraits that I actually felt were better than my other portraits, which were why I gave up on the initial portraits. So I was like, this feels like an upgrade. Maybe it's not. Billy has a hard time with her brothers sometimes. They don't really get her fully, and she kind of just. That's the thing about Billy, and something that I really like about her. She doesn't speak a whole lot. She is a selective mute, but in general, it is also harder for her to speak because it is very taxing because it causes pain sometimes, but just because it's such a struggle to get stuff out. And so she kind of just goes with the flow. She also understands that in the type of life that they live, in the type of life that their dad lived, and the cards that they were dealt, you kind of just have to go with what's happening. And you might not like it, but what are you going to do? And so in some cases, her brothers don't like to take her on any very dangerous jobs like they'll do with a bunch of like really bad men because they know that there's danger in bringing her around some of those really bad men, especially if they can't keep an eye on her all the time. And so sometimes they will leave her in a hotel room by herself, but Billy doesn't like to be by herself due to some of the trauma from their background, where it was her and Ike at their house alone when their uncle Silas showed up, killed dad, and then came walking through the house looking for them. They were in the hidden cellar, and then he burned down the house. They were safe in the cellar, and it was only when Tommy came afterwards and looked in the cellar and found them under all this debris because debris had fallen over the door that they had been found. But she gets scared when she is left by herself. She is very clingy. She likes to be touching somebody that she cares about when she can. So she is either always touching her brother, or later on, she is also touching Ambrose because either of them give her comfort. Then this is one of my best images so far, I think, of Marcella. If any of you watched the short that I posted last week, then you probably already saw this. And there is a sadness to it because of the whole thing that happens with Marcella. She was groomed from a very young age to be used as a tool for her father to expand his empire. And what he did was introduced her to this man named Christopher Maxim when she was, 4 or 5 years old. That man was like 15 years older than her, and said that, told Christopher that this would be your future wife so that we can combine our businesses. And he does metal, and Bailey makes guns. And so they were going to become this huge gun manufacturer that would feed into each other's finances. And so as she gets older, her dad subtly starts trying to get her to change her relationship with Christopher, and it's just not taking. And it's during this time that she ends up meeting Tommy because he slides in the window bleeding. This is the very opening of Westies 1. He slides in the window bleeding, and she hears them come into the basement, and she goes down there to see what it is, and she sees this wounded man. And so then she goes and gets a medical kit and takes care of him. And then they start talking afterwards, and she takes care of him for a couple of days. And they have some interactions during those days where they're together, where Tommy is like, this can't be real. Why is she treating me like this? I am dangerous to her. Long story short, the two of them fall in love with each other. They run away together, which puts an axe in the plans of Maxim and Bailey, and then she's eventually forced back. I'm not gonna spoil that too much, but everything that she says about being in love with Tommy, she is told that she is crazy. She is told that she is lovesick from reading too many novels, and she does eventually get institutionalized by her family for saying that she loves somebody and does not want to marry Christopher. And so that's part of that story, and it is earth-shattering to her, when in the end all she wanted was the choice. And she thought that her father cared about her and her opinion, and that she could tell him that she was in love with this other man and that her daddy would just listen, but he doesn't. And that she has to reconcile later that her father never loved her. Never loved her the way that she loved him. And this is sweet little Michi. This is one of my favorites. I don't know how I'm still, every time I draw her hair, every time I draw any of their hair with a comb, I'm like, I'm still figuring out how to do this. I don't know what I'm doing, but she is such a little beacon of light. I love her character so much. I'm so glad that she exists and she developed the way that she did. She's just such a loving person. It kind of radiates off her. All I remember about this one is that I was drawing it while I was at work during a holiday because nothing was going on. And I just wanted to draw something short and easy. And I'm still not happy with the way that it turned out. Anyway, I'm trying to think if anything else is going on. Usually my life is pretty straightforward, and I think I tell you guys most of anything that's actually important to say going on. I do take a lot of inspiration, a lot of interest from the things that I experience. I do pay attention to a lot of the conversations that happen on the channel. And it happened in the comments, and it changes my perspective on things. And I know that I did a video a couple weeks ago talking about, things where my mind has changed in a couple of places. And I know that there are other places where my mind has changed, but it is harder to talk about certain things, about becoming calloused to certain things because of experiences of abuse, of what's the word that I want? Of dismissal, of you see certain things and then you're like, I can't unsee them. And so a lot of the time when I'm sharing my perspective on things, and I don't know if this ever comes across as fully as I mean it to, because I do try hard, but I also know that I am just a silly person, a silly and fallible person who can't get everything right anyway. And I try more than anything. I don't do video essays because I'm not necessarily trying to convince anybody of anything. Even with the books that I read, I'm not trying to do essays to convince anybody about anything in the book, but rather to have a conversation, because I don't want to approach anything like I am an expert. I don't think that I am an expert. I think that I'm a regular person, that all I can do is share what I've seen and share what it is that I feel or what it is that I've experienced and why I feel that way. And you don't have to feel the same way, but I think that it is important to share different perspectives, period, without having to try to convince somebody one way or the other, because it lets you know that you can coexist, and that just because you have different experiences doesn't mean that anybody is wrong in what they experience, and that maybe some things are just not for every single person, and that maybe people have certain reactions to certain things because of the experiences that they've had that have then conditioned or created those experiences. I know that there are a number of subjects where I used to have more empathy for complaints. And then after some of the things that I have not only experienced, but have seen and have thrown at me, I have less empathy for those things. If in a bunch of cases where I have been treating other people with empathy, and then the response has been to not give the empathy back, but instead to like hammer it home, I've shifted. And I think part of that too comes from being used by people. And the hostility. The hostility has been there for a while. There were a few years ago, it was a few years ago, where I had a smaller server on Discord. That was only a couple of us from a different website. And I had left that server specifically because I didn't feel like I belonged there anymore, despite it being my server. And when I did come back, there were just a handful of people being aggressive in conversation and dismissive in conversation. So I came back in with the same energy, and it was immediately met with, oh, you don't like me? Okay, then ban me, do it. And it was like so much anger. And even more bizarre because it was just over calling Way of the Water stupid and Cameron stupid. And you're like, buddy, it's not that serious. And I remember this well because it was during Christmas Eve. I'm like, why are we getting this angry over a nothing like this? But you see people turn enough, and you see people get very emotional enough that they turn off any conversation. And you see people get scared to share their opinions because they are scared of getting a response that they weren't expecting to receive, or about being rejected. And it's one thing to just disagree, but it's another thing to just be rejected and kicked out because you have a certain opinion. And I do want to say that I think there are certain opinions that won't necessarily be compatible to have, and that is fine. You don't have to be friends with everybody. But if you do want to approach those things, then you have to be respectful of other people's approaches. And I think that's where I have become more calloused, because where I felt like I had been accepting before, or would listen before, whenever I would express my experiences, which were different, mine were insulted. And so at some point I went, okay, I'm not going to play that nice game anymore, because when does my being careful about my words ever actually help me? It doesn't. Every time I say something, somebody is going to have a problem with it, no matter how clearly I try to speak. And then that discourages people from ever trying to be careful, from ever trying to cross the lane to talk to other people, because really, what is the point? And I think that is something that has especially changed over the last couple of months. I don't know if it has added to the depression that has been felt. Um, but I definitely see it in my mindset and in my approach with other people. And it is a daily struggle, I would say, to not let the caustic and divisive is not the word that I want, like the most toxic responses win, because you don't want to assume that somebody is coming at you in a bad way, but sometimes it's really hard. I think about that one guy where I did a video just talking about things that I liked, and I said one of the things I said was that I liked male psychology, male criminal psychology. And he came and asked something in the comments about, like, what about women? And so then I explained where my interest in male psychology lie, and that came back with a, so you hate women. Why do you hate women? And it's like, you never know when people are going to be honest, or when they're waiting to try to clap back at you for something. And I think that it's happened more and more recently. And so when I talk about the effects that others leave on your heart, it has to do with the positive experiences. It has to do with the negative experiences. It has to do every person that you interact with. And I think even every book that you interact with is going to leave its imprint on your soul. And it may be the entirety of a huge plot, or it might be like His Name Was Augustine, where I just can't forget Swanee's cousin marrying Swanee's dad, and the anal to pure-bloodedness honeymoon. uh, I wish that book had just allowed itself to be a villain's journey, really. But everything leaves a mark, and some more important than others, because if you have, like, given room in your heart to somebody, for somebody to live there, then whether it's a betrayal or a loss, then that part of your heart is going to be hurt when something happens. Oh no, it's coming back. Because I know for a fact people, and Tatum, who have big chunks of my heart, that if anything happened to them, I would lose a part of myself. And sometimes, you have that, and you have the books or the artwork that are not necessarily quite as obvious in the way that they dig into you, but they do create that bond where it makes you think in a different way, or it makes you remember them in a different way, or it makes you approach situations in a different way that you couldn't have anticipated. But at some point you see the difference. And I think it is much easier for us to have bad experiences that then influence the way that we see others, and then we get hypersensitive, we get paranoid, than it is for us to be good. Because when you are good, when you are caring, when you are gracious, it is seen by the bad to be taken advantage of. And then that leads more into being caustic. And so every bad experience is more likely to take away from the good experiences. At least that's my opinion. I find it really hard to be positive right now, but not in like the way of things ending. It's just in the way of like loved ones, the few loved ones that I have, that I do feel lucky to have. I think 2024 has been a really hard year. So I think September has been a really hard month, like for real. Every day has been a different hard thing. And that's why we're working on Westies, because you know what? While there are bad things happening in Westies, there is also the fun, the mayhem, the love between the characters. I'm so excited to actually watch in character as these characters grow together as a family, going through what they have to go through, the sacrifices that they make for each other, the way that they have chemistry together, and then being able to share it with you all. This is the last image that I have drawn to share right now. I have like 6 others that are variations of the same pose, but for the main Westies cast, because I was thinking of keychains for them. I don't know if I will, but I wanted to draw Casey. I would draw Ralph more, but I don't know how to draw curly hair, so I end up drawing him a little less than I wish I did. But you've got your beautiful front man here, and some poorly drawn graffiti in the background to finish it all off. So with that said, being the ending-ish of the video, there it is. Let me know what your goals are for the next quarter of the year, for the last 3 months of 2024. Are you drawing? Are you writing? Are you developing? Let us all just be each other's support systems in ways. And if your endeavors have to do with something else, like getting a job, moving into a new house, a new state, whatever, any of your goals for the rest of this year are good to go. My goal is to get a draft of Westies 1 done, and possibly a draft of Predisposed to Bliss. I figured out an element of it that was definitely missing, but now I need to figure out, as soon as I figure out the kind of direction of how to build the first act, I should be okay. But I'm in that awkward phase of trying to figure out the pacing of the book and how things are going to lay out. And once I get that, theoretically it should be easier. I think Brennan's personality will come along once I figure out a direction. Especially once Brennan actually meets Isabella. So, yeah. With that said, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. What are you working on? What will you work on? What are your accomplishments for the last couple of months, so that we can celebrate your wins together? How big, how small, doesn't matter. Just share them. And with all that said, have a great weekend, and don't die. Because you guys all deserve it, I just want to say thank you to every member of the channel: David B, Just a Raccoon, Simon Taylor, Rainer Chan, Alta Monk, Off Fidel, Mercy Cunningham, Mike, Rayleigh's Movies, Thaumaturgist, and Spoopy Samuel. You guys help pay for what I do here, keeping what I do here for free. And if anybody else would like to become a member, link down near the description below. Thank you. I appreciate you all just for being a part of hanging out. Thank you.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross.
Is he in trouble?
We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Wei. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?